Your Voice, Shropshire Disability Network Newsletter, December 2011. Part 2. Opportunity for voluntary and community sector. Shropshire Capital and Assets Pathfinder programme can enable VCS organisations to access new opportunities, such as sharing accommodation, benefiting from public sector accommodation, and finding ways of saving money on accommodation costs or use of other assets such as land. Shropshire Capital Assets Pathfinder programme is an opportunity for all voluntary and community sector VCS organisations. If you're interested when you have read this, just complete the questionnaire and email it back. If you have declared an interest in this way, you will be kept up to date with developments and represented to all SCAPP meetings by a VCS board member and volunteer. This is a fantastic opportunity for any VCS organisation. All public service, including fire, police, council assets, will be mapped, and the VCS will have the chance to identify new opportunities and longer-term benefits for their organisations. David Fairclough, VCS Officer and Development Officer at Shropshire Council, writes, "It is shown that by adopting a strategic pan-public sector approach to customer demands, assets and capital management at the local level, one public sector, money can be saved and services improved. Close collaboration at the local level can deliver better service outcomes and reduce the cost of delivery. The original Pathfinders identified reductions in both operating space and running costs of up to 20%, and now the Wave 2 programme has come to Shropshire. Shropshire Council is one of the 14 authorities in Wave 2. The programme is closely linked with the government's Decentralisation and Community Budgets programme. It focuses upon the more efficient use of the public sector assets and will strongly influence future capital allocations and spending in the locality. The programme is designed to demonstrate how frontline services can be improved, money saved, carbon footprint reduced and property shared. If you're interested in looking at better ways of managing your assets, if you are potentially interested in property mergers, partnership working, relocating to cheaper premises, or in what other assets are out there, then please complete the questionnaire. Once the questionnaire has been completed, please send it back to David Fairclough at david.fairclough@shropshire.gov.uk, or you can post it to David Fairclough, Strategic Planning, VCS Assembly, Shropshire Council, Shire Hall, Shrewsbury, SY2 6ND. Fitness for work tests to be reformed. Tests determining whether people are fit to work are to be reformed to offer more support and to take greater account of mental health conditions. An independent review of the Work Capability Assessment introduced in 2008 has proposed substantial changes to make it fairer and more effective. Campaigners say it is flawed and many decisions are overturned on appeal. Employment Minister Chris Grayling said the test should be fair and just while helping people back to work. The government wants to cut the number of benefit claimants as part of its efforts to drive down the welfare bill by ensuring all those able to work are looking for employment. In November 2009, there were 2.6 million people of working age on incapacity benefits, costing the state £13.4 billion, and ministers want to reassess everyone on such benefits by March 2014. The Work Capability Assessment, introduced by Labour, is currently being used to assess new claimants and will be used to test everyone from early next year. It involves a functional health assessment, denoting an individual's ability to work, rather than the previous diagnostic medical assessment by a GP or specialist focusing on particular conditions. Mental health campaigners say the test is flawed as it focuses on people's physical capability to work, while the number of test verdicts overturned on appeal shows the system is not working. An independent review, led by Professor Malcolm Harrington, has called for substantial changes to the existing system of assessment. What we have inherited in this process is something which does not deal enough with individual challenges and circumstances. Mental health experts should be present in all assessment centres, it recommends, to ensure there is a full understanding of the complexities of individual conditions. It also calls for more support for those being assessed, better communication of what the test entails, and for tests to be filmed on a pilot basis. Said Professor Harrington, "This is not about ripping up the current system and starting all over again. I am proposing a substantial series of recommendations to improve the fairness and effectiveness of the assessment." Mr. Grayling said the government accepted all the review's recommendations, stressing it was in everybody's interest that the tests were as fair as possible. "What we have inherited is this process is something which is too mechanised, too automated, and does not deal enough with individual challenges and circumstances. Final decisions would not be solely based on the outcome of the test. Medical histories and other factors would be taken into account. While those unable to work would continue to receive unconditional support, those deemed to work would be challenged to do so. The report also found that there was no evidence that the assessment process was being driven by financial targets, a claim long denied by ministers. Mental health charity Mind welcomed the review, saying it had grave concerns about the current test, but it was vital that the proposed alterations were implemented in full. It is clear from this independent review that the assessment in its current form is flawed and that it is not a fair or effective tool to determine whether or not someone is capable of working, said Mind's Chief Executive, Paul Farmer. Modern communication using social media. A breakfast briefing exploring the main social media tools available and how they can work for campaigning, fundraising and more within the voluntary sector will be held in the Darwin Room at the Lord Hill Hotel in Shrewsbury on the 1st of December. To book, you can call Steve on 01743 237 877. Looking further ahead, on the 9th of January, there will be a social media surgery in Shrewsbury at HCS Computers Login Internet Cafe, 55 Castle Foregate, SY1 2EJ. The training is described as ideal for those who work for a voluntary or community organisation or in social enterprise. It will provide information on where to start with using blogs, Facebook, Twitter and other free social media sites, how to promote activities and share information, and how to use free websites and services to promote, raise funds and collect feedback. For info or to book, you can go to shropshirevcs.org.uk/services/training/Shropshire Social Media Surgery. "40 Years of Working for Disabled Drivers" by Sarah Starkey, SDN Editorial Team. The Disabled Motorists Federation, DMF, was established over 40 years ago with the intention of providing advice to disabled people and their carers on issues related to motoring and transport. Since then, it has been called upon on several advice to both central and local government organisations, and the Vice President, Peter Lynn, has participated in discussion forums held at the Palace of Westminster on improving transport and social inclusion for disabled people. Despite being a registered charity and the contributions it has made, the Federation has never received any grants and remains by volunteers. With an estimated 12 million people affected by disability in the UK and around 6 million carers, the DMF is working to create a more inclusive, equal and safer society for such a significant proportion of the population. The Federation says that membership provides many benefits, including car purchase schemes, accommodation discount facilities with hotel groups, and access to legal and insurance services. It's currently developing an accident management service. To expand the size of the organisation, the DMF is keen to increase its networking. As an example, Mr. Lynn said the Federation had strengthened relations with Merseyside Police, and this had resulted in a community project award back in October 2008. The DMF wants to increase the number of relationships with organisations such as NHS trusts and PCTs, as well as establishing relationships with the industrial and commercial sectors. Its key aim is to ensure a more equal, inclusive and safer society and to extend its work to more people with physical and invisible disabilities. For further information, you can visit www.dmfed.org.uk. Local MP meets with ME Group. Shropshire ME Group members met with MP Philip Dunn in October at Church Stretton. The group provided an overview of ME and information on SMEG itself, from the background to challenges that are faced. A main focus of the meeting was the problems that arise with diagnosis and treatment and the NHS neglect that's occurred in specific cases. After the meeting, Mr Dunn wrote to the Minister responsible for welfare reform to find out what progress is being made in terms of recognising various symptoms of ME when sufferers attend assessment for benefits. He has also written to the Medical Research Council to ask what progress is being made in allocating funding for 6 research priorities for ME announced earlier this year. Mr Dunn told the ME Group he will be in touch once he has responses to his queries. Bring on the clowns. Maybe it's a failing sense of humour, along with eyesight, on the part of the Your Voice editor, but some of the websites he's visited recently make him think that the world isn't taking disability seriously. In fact, a lot of people seem to find disability either a source of great humour or irritation. It is divorced from normal human life. So here's a little project. Let's start building up some evidence. Whenever you come across a website, a radio or TV station, or a newspaper that behaves badly about disability, make a note and email the details to newsletter@shropshire-disability.net, and let's see what we can get. 'Tis the season to be jolly. The volunteering carol service is back at several venues across the county. The celebration services, which include coffee and mince pies, all run from 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. as follows. On the 7th of December at Shrewsbury Abbey, on the 8th of December, Bridgenorth Baptist Church, the 12th of December, St John's Church in Ludlow, and the 13th at St Oswald's Church in Oswestry. Wellington Station's facilities for disabled come under attack. Shocking conditions faced by all travellers, but particularly those with disabilities at Wellington train station, have been brought into the limelight by a borough councillor. Councillor Mike Ion is the member whose ward includes the station, and he says he's been inundated with complaints from local residents and rail users about the lack of facilities at the station. These include lack of full disabled access to both platforms, there's no lift, toilets only on one platform and currently closed, no waiting room on either platform, ticket office only open up till 1 p.m, and huge pressure on the free car park as a consequence of commuters migrating from other stations that charge for parking. Councillor Ion has contacted both London Midland and Network Rail, demanding urgent talks on improvements to the station, including improved disabled facilities, more car park spaces, and the provision of CCTV cameras to improve safety. Meanwhile, he is urging people to make a noise on their own behalf by contacting the head of the franchise at London Midland, nicola.moss@londonmidland.com, and by writing to the letters page of the Shropshire Star, starmail@shropshirestar.co.uk. Councillor Ion's email address is mike.ion@telford.gov.uk, or you can Twitter at MIKEION. I'm aware the council has a proposal to provide a bridge between Wellington bus station and the railway station, including lifts to the station platforms to improve accessibility, he says in a press release. Unfortunately, this scheme is estimated to cost in excess of £1.5 million, and in the current funding climate, identifying funding to deliver the scheme will be extremely difficult. I will be urgently seeking a meeting with residents, Network Rail, the train operator London Midland, and the council to discuss the issues that passengers face and how they can be best addressed, particularly if there's a willingness from local residents and train users to get involved in improving a key local asset for the community. The council also says the council will be implementing restrictions on the car park next to the station early in 2012. Letters urged in fight for mobility support. Lord Lowe's review into the funding of personal mobility for people in residential care has recommended that the government should keep the mobility component of Personal Independence Payment, PIP, which is set to replace the Disability Living Allowance for those in state-funded residential care. The report also found no evidence to support the government's argument that local authorities are already meeting mobility needs, nor did it find that paying DLA mobility to people living in residential care was duplicating funding. The mobility component enables thousands of disabled people to go to the shops, visit family, or socialise with their friends. But the Welfare Reform Bill gives the government the power to stop paying the mobility component to people living in state-funded residential care. As one of the many people who commented on this in a blog put, "If a Conservative government sees that they can save billions by cutting back on certain state benefits, we stand in danger of one broom being used to sweep away the needing and the undeserving in one fell swoop, without the appropriate information being accurately gathered before a decision can be formed for or against any one case." People with disabilities, their carers and families are being urged to write to their local MP, urging him or her, in Shropshire it's all hims, to send a letter to the Prime Minister to find out why the government still plans to remove the mobility component. If you would like to do so but don't know who your MP is or how to get in touch, just follow the link www.writetothem.com. Doctors get new help on support for carers. A new guide to help GPs and their teams provide improved support to carers has been launched by the Royal College of General Practitioners, RCGP, and the Princess Royal Trust for Carers. Some startling statistics back up the need for a new guide, and the RCGP has not pulled any punches in urging GPs to support their local carers. About 10% of patients who visit GPs are carers, defined as a person of any age, adult or child, who provides unpaid support to a partner, child, relative or friend who couldn't manage to live independently, or whose health or well-being would deteriorate without this help. The country's debt to the carers is incredible. According to the GP College, some 1.2 million carers each spend over 50 hours a week caring for others, which equates to a full-time workforce larger than the entire NHS. Carers are estimated to save the UK economy £87 billion a year, which is equivalent to £15,260 per year for every carer in the UK. The country really is in debt to this selfless people. It has been hoped that someone in Whitehall is listening. But being a carer comes at a physical and psychological cost. Up to 40% of carers experience psychological distress or depression. Carers have an increased rate of physical health problems, for example, providing high levels of care is associated with 23% higher risk of stroke. Older carers who report strain have a 63% higher likelihood of death in any given year than non-carers. More than half of carers fall into debt as a result of caring. The revised edition of the Supporting Carers Action Guide, offering an overview of how GP practices can support carers, along with up-to-date policy and good practice, also includes an updated and streamlined self-assessment checklist for practices to audit their own practice, and a guide to develop a plan for their support for carers. For further information, you can visit www.rcgp.org.uk/professional_development/continuing_DEVT/carers. Don't just vote, get elected. Disabled people are underrepresented in all aspects of public and political life, both locally and nationally. Now a campaigning group called Disability Politics UK is raising an e-petition calling for an increase in the number of disabled MPs to raise awareness of the issues involved. One way forward would be to enable MPs to job share, the group says. The government has published its response to the Access to Elected Office for Disabled People public consultation, which sought views on how to provide extra support for disabled people who are seeking elected office. It says it will take forward 5 of the 6 proposals consulted on: setting up an Access to Elected Office fund, providing training and development, raising awareness of the challenges faced by disabled people, cascading good practice on disability access policies, and promoting legal obligations. To sign the e-petition, visit epetitions.directs.gov.uk/petitions/17076. Dementia support. End of Life charity Amiga is determined to offer support to more carers looking after a family member suffering from dementia. It wants to help carers plan ahead and identify when they need to call for assistance and know where to go to find it. If you're in contact with a carer looking after someone facing dementia, please contact Amiga to discuss how it may be able to help. Phone 0845 259 3163, local rate, or you can email carers@omega.uk.net.